Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with Ted Drattell, the founder and CEO of the A-Team Executive Management, a provider of expert accounting and financial services, as well as accounting technology. Welcome to the show, Ted.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Malcolm.
Ted, you grew your company's revenue from $1.3 million in 2014 to $2.3 million in 2017, a 76% increase, and in 2018 you hit around $2.4 million. Before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you briefly share what your company does beyond my quick intro and how your company differs from the competition?
Sure. So, we provide outsourced accounting services. So we act as part-time bookkeepers, controllers, and CFOs for clients. And we also do technology consulting. So we help companies with, QuickBooks integration and applications that work with it that make them more efficient, as well as Sage Intacct.
All right, fantastic. So when you grew your business from 1.3 million in 2014 to 2.4 million in 2018, what were the three biggest drivers of that growth?
The people. Our staff is amazing. We've gotten really much better at hiring and vetting our staff. We found it much more, successful to hire lesser experienced people and teach them our way, which was really a big part of the growth. Secondly, we worked really hard on culture and, developing a company culture, which was very different than, when we started almost 18 years ago. And I would say the third piece is just, we're known in the marketplace, and we're really one of the few companies left that will actually go on site to a client. Most of our competition just want to do it remotely. And obviously it's a less expensive way to do business, but I find that we have a better work product and really connect with the client much better when we're going to their work site.
Fantastic. Now, can you talk a little bit about each of these three drivers? Just to recap, number one, people. Number two, your company culture. Number three, going to do the work on site as opposed to remotely. I got those three drivers right?
Yep, correct.
Okay. So in terms of people, were you hiring the less experienced folks at the very beginning, or did you have an aha moment and said, you know what, hiring these seasoned people just aren't working. Let's go a little bit further up the vine and get some people who are not as experienced? Was that
in the old days, we were hiring, much more experienced staff, but we were finding that there was a technology gap there. And just over time, the need for technology skills, whether it's understanding the accounting software, being extraordinarily proficient with Excel, were just so important, or knowing how to use the different applications like Bill.com, and there's a primary one that we use, and Expensify and things like that. And just the older workers just didn't adapt to it that well. They didn't want to change. And the younger people we were hiring, thirst for that kind of knowledge and training. So we found it much more effective. You know what? They didn't know it. We teach it to them. Right.
Now, do you find recruiting people is a challenge in terms of finding the people that meet your criteria and end up becoming successful hires? Is that a challenge?
It was for a while, but what we've done over the last couple of years, we created what I'll call a hiring playbook. So from that playbook, we have a very defined process as to how we hire. So we won't even see anybody in person. We give them a series of tests, online tests that we administer, and we have certain thresholds that they have to meet. And if they don't meet those thresholds, we don't go any further. If they meet those thresholds, then they speak to one of our senior people who's just really good at vetting staff. And then if we have a good good flavor for their fit to the company more than anything, because that's really what that call is about fit, then we bring them in. So they're going to meet with anywhere from 3 to 5 people. And, there's two to three interviews. It depends. And one of the things we do also is we created, I'll call it a financial statement test, where we give somebody a set of financial statements. It's something I created about 10 years ago, and we give it to every single candidate. And it helps us understand their level of their level of knowledge, B, how they prepare, how much confidence they have in themselves. And it's a really key differentiator, because I've had people where I thought I was going to hire them, and we administered that test, which is, it's kind of like how we deal with a client. You know, when we go in and we have to assess a set of financial statements and figure out what's wrong, that's what they're doing. And it just makes a whole big difference. And then another thing we've been doing over the last year is we administer a DISC assessment, which, you know, some people will call it a personality test, but it's really not. It's really a communication style test. And it just ferrets out, you know, again, more from a culture standpoint. Are they a cultural fit? Will they work together well with our staff and with our clients?
Right.
And you know, we don't knock that many people out because of it, but we do knock people out. And also it helps us understand how to communicate to them in a way that's effective.
Right. Now for a number, before I move on, actually, now,
Sure.
You know, you're in New York. You know,
Yep.
people have a lot of job opportunities out there. Why have you found it not to be problematic to find people interested in interviewing?
Because what we're doing is we're looking for accounting firm refugees, people who want work-life balance, that don't want to work crazy hours that spike up and down all year long. You know, we're pretty much a 40-hour a week shop, and you know, there's a little overtime, but not that much. There's a work pickup in January and February, yeah, some, but it's again, it's pretty steady all year long. So they don't have the kind of lifestyle you would lead in public accounting. So we're just an alternative. It's for somebody that wants that balance, we're a good place to be.
Right, got it. Okay, so for number 2, the second driver, company culture. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is it something that kind of happened on its own, or one that you had an end target in mind and you drove that culture to that end target?
We've worked really hard on it, more recently than not, and it's really just kind of creating camaraderie. It's training. It's and that's a big part of it, because our population are mostly millennials and they want to learn, and we're providing those opportunities. We have a training grant from New York City, and with those dollars, we're able to give people more opportunities to train.
All right. So how do you go about creating camaraderie?
Celebrate success, celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, happy hours. Listen, we're not the type of place where people are playing ping pong or pool or foosball or anything like that. A, our office isn't big enough, and B, we're all accountants for the most part. So it's just not that type of place. But again, a lot of people go out to lunch. We do a once a month company lunch. We do a really nice holiday party. We do a summer party. So it's just a lot of little things.
Yeah, those little things add up for sure.
And also when we're hiring, we're also hiring to culture. So that makes a big difference as well. We're not looking for people, that might be extraordinarily smart, but if they can't play well in the sandbox, then we're not going to hire them.
Yeah, it's a bit challenging to assess that in, from one day's worth of interviews, though, would you say?
Absolutely. But you know what? Between the DISC assessment, the different tests, how they respond in an interview, we're also doing reference checks, but we do online reference checks. So we tend to get better response rates, as well as more honesty, because we don't know who said what.
Yep. So what's your take on reference checks? Because I always felt that the value is a bit limited. Like if I were to interview with someone, the references I provide are only going to be people who I had confirmed in advance that one, they'll give a reference, and two, that they'll give a positive reference as opposed to a negative reference, right?
I totally agree, but because the responses are anonymous, that I find that we get much more honesty.
Right. Yep.
Before we were doing that, I totally agree that you're totally right. You get somebody on the phone, they were afraid to say anything bad, and doing it online and doing it anonymously, I think helps a lot.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that. All right. And number 3, the third driver, being known in the marketplace as a company where you will do the work on site as opposed to remotely. How did that evolve?
Listen, we do plenty of remote work too. I mean, we just have clients that for whatever reason don't want us. Either they don't have room for us, there's no need for us to be in their office. But providing an on-site service is just so valuable. You learn so much just by being there, by interacting, by listening, and it creates challenges, obviously, when you're hiring, because you need somebody that has a good bedside manner that can go into a client and A, do the work, but B, interact in a professional manner. When they're doing it remotely, mostly everything's by email. So you don't have to worry about that as much.
Now, do you tend to recommend that you work on site and then you work remotely if the client doesn't wish that? Or is it the other way around? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely lead with the fact that we work on site because, again, it's a key differentiator as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. Now, do you also train your people to over time to let the client know about other services, to keep an ear out about other gaps that they might have, being that they're on site?
We do. We could do a better job of that. We actually have one of our senior people working on that now, making sure that they connect with our clients on a regular basis, other than the staff that works on them, and just making sure we're doing a good job, and B, seeing if there's anything we can help them with. Whether it's ourselves or other service professionals that we know.
Right. Okay. What type of process are you thinking about implementing to help with that right now?
Again, we're creating this playbook, another big word of ours, of how to do these client follow-ups and and speak to them. Obviously, people are busy, so you got to A, catch them at the right time, and B, make sure they get value out of it. So we're doing homework before we do those conversations. Our person Ryan Moore that's handling it, he's speaking to the staff that works with the client and making sure he understands what their challenges look like and what their numbers are, and seeing what kind of value add we can offer. Again, it doesn't have to be our services. It could be lawyers and HR professionals. It could be anything. Right,
got it. Now for 2018, you grew your business from 2.3 million in 2017 to 2.4 million in 2018. What happened there in terms of the slowdown in your growth trajectory from prior years?
It was really a combination of, we introduced our technology services and in a much bigger way than we had in the past. And I think it was, the way we initially approached it, I think was a distraction, and it took us a while to figure out, how to really do it in a way that resonated with
clients.
So that was part of it, and secondly, we kind of weeded through some of our staff that really weren't that good cultural fit, and we had to change them out. Again, that's distracting.
Right. And so you had a new product line introduction, right? Your technology services. Now, does that also mean that it impacted your business development because you're focusing, you didn't necessarily hire more people to market and sell the technology service? This is an additional product line that your existing team was selling. Is that how it worked?
Well, a couple of different things. So we hired a director of technology services in November, Keith Michioni, and he's awesome. And so he's pretty well known in the marketplace. So that has helped bring in some new business. Secondly, we changed the way we did our marketing. We used to do it in-house, and I was finding that wasn't very effective, and we outsourced it. And Tom Baskill, who works on our team, has outsourced, CMO, is absolutely fantastic. He understands our business. He's very practical, and he's getting stuff done.
Is he an in-house person, or he's your outsourced?
He's outsourced, so he's remote. He participates on our, we have periodic management team meetings, so he participates in those. But other than that, he's remote.
Okay. All right. And how now, 2018 was a transition year. We're 2 months into 2019. How are things looking now?
Got off beginning of the year to a rousing start. 2019 is looking really well. One of the things we did at the end of 2017 is we hired a coach, David Sobel from CEO International. And the one thing he's awesome at that we're not is kind of sales strategy. So we've really been working on that, and we've got quite ambitious targets for 2019, but we have a plan. We have a very detailed plan as to how we're going to do it and who's got to do what.
Can you share what those sales targets are?
Sure. So our stretch goal is to grow 50% in 2019.
Okay. And what's your, it's kind of funny, I work with a coach as well, and he has this thing called BOMOS, right?
Right.
And stretch is the S in that phrase. And then he has another one, the BOM, the BAM, what he calls the bare ass minimum. Do you have a bare ass minimum growth you're looking for in 2019?
Well, with the staff that we've hired over the last 2 months, we should achieve a minimum of 30% growth.
Okay.
And we just need to make another couple other key hires, and that'll bridge that gap from 30 to 50.
Okay. And what challenges do you foresee you need to figure out and overcome to get to your 50%? I know you mentioned you need to hire some more staff. Are there other challenges that you need to sort out?
Well, I mean, the thing is, as you're growing, it's really important that you always maintain your quality, and that people that are responsible for supervising don't get too busy where they can't supervise and review work. So that's always been our challenge as we've grown in the past, is to maintain quality, but we are laser focused on it. So I'm feeling pretty good about it right now.
Okay. Now, what are your plans on the marketing side to generate leads for your sales team to close?
Sure. So one of the things we did with Tom is we bought a very targeted list of companies in the metro area that fit a certain profile, and Tom is reaching out to them in a very personal way. And we're looking to generate, higher level services, CFO services and technology services, or executive search services, which I didn't even mention that we do, with those companies. So I think the list we bought was 3,000 companies, and, he's going through them one by one and reaching out to them. He's got a couple of bites already. We just started doing it, and feeling very good about it. We're raising our profile on LinkedIn. Both my partner and I really changed our LinkedIn pages. We hired somebody to help us with that. And for both of us, it's really increased our traffic. Unfortunately, at least as far as I'm concerned, a lot of it's people trying to sell me. So that's not too exciting, but I definitely feel that there is a lot more traffic driven to our LinkedIn sites. And ultimately, we're going to be, on Facebook as well.
Right. Now, you talked about you bought a list of companies. Now, how have you found the quality of that list? Because oftentimes when I work with clients who have bought lists, and at the end of the day, when they see what the results are, the quality is not so great. Oftentimes the lists have been resold, dozens of times, hundreds of times, who knows how many times.
Honestly, it's too early to know. I mean, Tom's bought a list from this company before, so he says it's pretty good quality, but we'll find out. I mean, we'll find out what the return on investment is.
Right.
I mean, the reality is we only need to get one client from that list, one or two clients from that list to pay for it. So I'm very optimistic that that'll pan out.
Okay, good. Now, I took a look at your online marketing presence before we jumped on the call here, and I didn't really see a lot in terms of pay-per-click advertisements or SEO-related traffic. What are your thoughts about
that? We've done pay-per-click before. We've spent quite a lot of money in years past, and just the quality of the business that we got was poor, and we just got a lot of price shoppers. So I'm not interested in doing that again. The SEO, we did do our website, redo our website last year, and we used a different company, and he did a good job. I think visually it looks much better. The branding is much better, but we really need to optimize it
now. Now, what are your thoughts about optimizing it? Like, what's the strategy there?
A lot of it just comes down to keywords. I mean, one of Tom's goals is to generate a certain amount of traffic and leads himself, and through whether it's optimization and LinkedIn ads and Facebook ads and things like that, that's supposed to turn into that traffic.
Okay.
So again, it's too early to know yet, but as we go later into the year, we'll find out.
Okay. Now, Tom, I thought was your fractional CMO. Is he doing sales work as well?
No, he's our fractional CMO.
Okay. So, and then mention how I thought you mentioned Tom was also reaching out to the people on your list.
Yes. So he's doing it via email and things like that.
Okay. At what point does someone on your side take it over and work with them from a sales
as soon as somebody expressed interest, then he turns it over.
Okay. I mean, we've come up with LinkedIn strategies to reach out to people and engage them, and then hand it over to our client sales team when we get to that point as well. But it's a hours intensive work, right? I mean, is Tom spending quite a bit of time on this?
No. He generated a kind of a series of different types of letters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's at the moment it hasn't been terribly time consuming.
Right.
Again, we just started the process, so it's just too early to tell.
Right. Okay. Got it. Now, any other big challenges, big rocks that you have, in your backpack that you're carrying around that you would just love to unload?
Well, the only other thing we're looking to add like a sales coordinator to our team. One of the things my partner Dominic Bensabanga and I are finding is, we're at the moment inundated with new business and we're attending to it. But at some point, our ability to attend to all of it is going to go down. And secondly, if Tom generates half as many leads as he thinks, there's just no way we're going to be able to handle that. So we're actively recruiting for a sales coordinator.
How's that coming along?
Great. We've actually our recruiter Joe Morelli has found people with amazingly with accounting backgrounds that don't either want to do accounting anymore or just looking to make more money. And so we've got good candidates. Just again, we've started the process over the last month. So nobody to hire yet, but I'm confident with the people we have in the hopper, one of them will be the right person.
Right. Now, you mentioned your recruiter. Is he an in-house recruiter? Or also someone that you've brought on board, a third party, someone you'd outsource that function to?
No, so it's a W-2 employee that does our recruiting. Okay. So Joan recruits for us, for our staff, and she recruits for clients as well.
Okay. Now, something which I've noticed is that businesses that are on the lower end of the spectrum revenue-wise, even in your range, right, the 2 million or so area, the business owners are a bit reluctant to outsource work, and I think it's primarily from a cost perspective.
Right.
You, on the other hand, you kind of taken a different track. You're open toward outsourcing. Can you share a little bit about how that came to be?
Sure. So a couple of different things. So one, we're in the business of outsourcing, so I get it. I think a lot of times you can get best bang for your buck by hiring a part-time expert rather than, a full-time person that might be okay at it, but not an expert. So, that's why we do it.
So
same thing on the IT side. We outsource IT.
Right. So you're finding, even though maybe if you look at it a purely absolute dollar perspective per hour basis or whatnot, it seems high. But then when you factor in all things considered, the productivity, quality of expertise, getting the job done right, at the end of the day, it ends up being a lower cost overall.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Awesome. What trends do you see in the outsourced accounting and accounting services space?
A couple of trends, a couple of big trends going on. So slowly, the whole concept of AI is, coming into the market. There's a few companies that are out there saying they do it. I think over time it will happen, but I think it's going to kind of capture the lower end of the market. More so than anything. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that it'll just never work with because they just require too much hands-on work, to get their accounting done. So that's a big piece of it. Secondly, there's just so many applications out there that plug gaps in software. For instance, paying bills directly through QuickBooks, let's say, isn't the most efficient way to do it. There's a lot of applications out there that just do it better, faster, and that link to the accounting software. And it just saves a tremendous amount of time. So whether it's bill pay, whether it's sales tax, expense reporting, there's just so many of them out there that do it. There's inventory modules that'll bridge the gap between, let's say, Amazon and their accounting system.
Now, how do you assess which platform to jump onto, right? Because the last thing you want to do is adopt technology and then have that technology end up becoming obsolete, or the company goes out of business, and then you're kind of left in a bit of a bind, a pickle, right?
Yes.
Transition.
Yes. It's really easy to get sucked into the application du jour. So we really try to stick to tried and true applications that are cost effective.
Right. Okay.
To me, there's no reason to switch something that's not broken.
Right. Now that you brought up the idea of cost effectiveness as well as trends, right? I mean, even in the marketing space, there's always the latest and greatest new way of reaching out to people. What have you found to be the most effective marketing channels that you've used in the past, and what do you anticipate will be the most effective going forward?
I mean, our biggest sources of business are clients and accounting firms. And that's really what we focus most of our marketing efforts on. And we spend time in networking groups and things like that. But to me, I see them more as, resources that we need for our clients rather than sources of business.
Okay. Now, when you say biggest source of business coming from accounting firms, how does that work now?
Well, many times the accounting firm can't provide the service because there's an independence issue. So if they're providing, a financial statement that requires attestation, they can't do the underlying work. So there's an independence issue. So they bring somebody else in. Secondly, we do it at a different price point. So if they have a client that's cost sensitive and that's willing to accept a third party to work work with them, we get that referral.
Are you actively looking to build out partnerships with accounting firms?
No, because we don't really want to be perceived as tied to any one particular firm. We work with a lot of them, and so no. So that doesn't really make sense for us. We really want to just have relationships, reciprocal relationships, with different what I call a mid-sized firm.
Right. So where you would directly refer business to each other, and you're not
Yep.
really working as a outsource or a white label partner.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, makes sense. All right. So if you had a magic wand, which everyone always wishes to have at times, and then you could wave it, what would be your wish that you would want granted in regards to your business?
Well, I mean, the thing that I find as we've grown is this. Basically, it's easier to run a growing business than it is to run a stagnant one. Because when your business stagnates, you never know when to hire. It's very, very challenging. I think if I wanted to wave a magic wand, I'd really like to see us get over the $5 million hump over the next couple of years, and also increase our geography. So again, it all comes down to strategy and execution.
Right. Now, when you say increase your geography, what do you mean by that? Just going outside of the grid, just expanding your radius around New York City, or are you talking about going into Boston, going into Philadelphia?
Initially, expanding the radius around New York City. I mean, most of our clients are either in the city or very close to the city. The way we got the client generally is tied somehow to the city. But I'd really like us to expand, much more into Jersey than we already are, into Westchester, to Long Island. It's a pretty big footprint. There's no reason why we can't.
Now, how would that change your staffing issue, right? Because that could potentially mean a longer commute for your team to go to your client sites as you grow geographically.
Yes, yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of Manhattan, in that you can get around, pretty quickly. You can do multiple clients in a day with no trouble. It's different once you get outside of Manhattan and you're getting into a car and you're traveling to the clients. It kind of changes the economics somewhat. But I think if you're providing premium service, some of it just goes to the way you sell it.
Right. So are you thinking you're going to need to open some satellite offices?
Yes.
One in New Jersey, one in...
Yes, we're totally rethinking our whole real estate strategy. So our office that we've been in since 2010 is roughly, 2,400 square feet or so. We're not too far from outgrowing it, but I would actually be interested in exploring, I'll call it WeWork type space, where we can grow as we need to, rather than being kind of stuck, in a certain footprint, and you can fit a certain amount of people, and that's it. Right.
And then with the beauty of WeWork, right? If it turns out that the market's not growing as you anticipated, you could exit more easily, right? You're not stuck in a 5-year lease.
Exactly right.
So, one question that came to mind that I wanted to ask you when you started talking about, but then we went down a different track. You mentioned you have a business coach. Can you share some details as to what the business coach does for you?
So he does a bunch of things for us. So I have a call with him twice a month. My partner has a call with him, I think, at least once a month. We do strategy summits with him twice a year. He comes into town and he meets with the whole management team. And so, for instance, the summit we did in December, we came up with our business plan for 2019. And, just awesome. And he also periodically coaches, other members of the team as needed basis.
All right. Have you been working with him a long time?
Since it's either November or December of 17. So, not quite a year and a half.
Okay. Awesome. Well, it sounds like he's adding value because you're still working with him.
He's adding value. B, his company itself just puts on an annual event, a learning event that's 2 or 3 days. So I went to the first one last May. It was absolutely fantastic. I
Right.
mean, the learning that came out of it was just so super.
Are you a member of any masterminds with other outsourced accounting services and financial services firms?
I'm not. The other thing I do, which occupies quite a bit of my time, so I'm part of Entrepreneurs Organization, EO. So that's a learning organization that I've been involved with for 14 years. I'm on the board for a couple of years now. And so what we do is we break up into small groups, once a month. So it's kind of like a mastermind, but it's with diverse business. So I've been in that same group for 13 out of the 14 years. So the learning and the thoughts that come out of the EO forum is amazing, and the learning just through EO is fantastic.
Right. Yeah. A number of my guests who I've interviewed are also members of EO, and they say good things about that organization. 3 last questions for you. First one, say you wanted to add a billboard to your marketing strategy, say along one of the busy freeways or turnpikes out in the New York area. What would your billboard say? And keep in mind, you only have 6 seconds for the message, right? Because people will drive by.
Right. Wow. I mean, I'm not certainly a marketing genius, so it's not jumping off, jumping to mind. But I would probably do something that talks about, our differentiator, accounting done differently, something like that.
That's a good one. Accounting done differently. Yeah, I like that one actually. I mean, 6 seconds, you read that, people go, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah. So, what does that mean? I think it's a little intriguing.
Yeah.
I'll give you a kind of an analogy. So yesterday I got a outreach from a company that was interested in bookkeeping services. So she wanted to know what we do and how much we charge. And I said to her, I said, why can't we do a phone call so I can really understand what you need, and then I could tell you what it would cost, because it makes a difference what level of person I need, what kind of services we're doing. So she said, well, I just need plain bookkeeping. So I sent her back a list of about 25 questions. I said, well,
right,
these questions for me, and that I can give you what you're looking for. So she answered me back, let's have a phone call. So
yeah.
we have a phone call set up for this afternoon. But again, people think it's cookie cutter, but it's not. It depends on an industry. It depends upon the information that the person is even aware of it, that it exists, and then B, if they don't know that it exists, what you can do that they're not aware of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get that as well in speaking to prospective clients, right? They're not aware about what all the options are. And when you said, plain bookkeeping, I just started chuckling because I know that there's more to bookkeeping than just bookkeeping, right? There's so many nuances about it. So, all right. 2 last questions for you.
Sure.
Who are your ideal clients, and what's the best way for them to contact your team?
Sure. So an ideal client to me, is somebody that values what top-notch accounting brings to the table, rather than looked at as a cost. They look at it as an opportunity, because the information that can be provided can be so valuable, and they have to trust us to let us do our job and show them, what that information is, period, and B, what they can do with it. And I'll give you an example. Like, we have a lot of service companies, and we want to be able to show the client, if people enter their time in some sort of timekeeping system, the cost of that time gets entered into their accounting system, we can tell them what their profitability is by client, by employee, things like that. And so many people are just so uninterested in that. But yet in a service business, to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it allows you to know where to allocate your resources, right?
Yeah, or what kind of business to go after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember reading a story about how Charles Schwab, I'm sure they've gone well beyond this now because this was like maybe 15 years ago, but if you called in Charles Schwab, right, on their end, your profile already pulls up, you're already color coded, and they know exactly what type of client you are, what
Yep,
priority to give you, right? So they give you the service that they've already tiered for you in advance.
yep,
Fantastic, right? Because it improves the overall customer experience.
absolutely.
And the best way for them to reach your team.
Best way is probably by email, which is Drattell, Drattell at 18consulting.com. Probably the best way. They can call me 646-783-1940. So those are really the two best ways to get me.
Okay. Would you mind spelling out your website domain name just so that people know exactly what to type in?
So it's the letter A, team, Team, consulting.com.
All right. Fantastic. I've really enjoyed our conversation, Ted. It's been a fantastic interview with you.
Thank you, Malcolm. I appreciate it.
We've been speaking with Ted Drattell, the founder and CEO of the A-Team Executive Management, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can accelerate your firm's high-value sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.